Hello, I'm Sister Tandy. A thorough, honest risk assessment is one of the most powerful tools available to any employer. It forces the question that changes everything. What could go wrong here, and what are we doing about it? Not after the incident, before it. Today, we are building your practical risk assessment capability, step by step, in plain language, with real examples from South African workplaces. By the end of this video, you will know how to conduct a meaningful risk assessment, not just a compliant one. Let's begin. Step 1 in any risk assessment. Identify every hazard in the area or task being assessed. A hazard is anything with the potential to cause harm to a person, to property, or to the environment. Hazards fall into categories that help you think comprehensively. Physical hazards include noise, vibration, extreme temperatures, radiation, and working at height. Chemical hazards, dust, fumes, solvents, cleaning agents, and pesticides. Biological hazards, bacteria, viruses, molds, animal materials. Ergonomic hazards include repetitive movements, awkward postures, heavy lifting, and poorly designed workstations. Psychosocial hazards, excessive workload, job insecurity, interpersonal conflict, shift work disruption. Do not rely solely on your own knowledge. Walk the area with workers who do the job every day. They know the hazards you cannot see from an office. Involve them. Their input is your most accurate hazard data. Step 2. Assess the risk associated with each hazard. Risk is the combination of two factors: the likelihood that the hazard will actually cause harm and the severity of that harm if it occurs. A simple risk matrix plots these two dimensions. Likelihood is rated rare, unlikely, possible, likely, or almost certain. Severity is rated negligible, minor, moderate, major, or catastrophic. Multiply or combine these ratings to generate a risk score. A rare event with negligible consequences is a low risk. A likely, high-risk event with major consequences requires immediate attention. Not every hazard requires the same level of control. Risk rating allows you to prioritize, to spend your time and resources where the actual risk is highest, rather than applying the same effort to everything equally. Step 3. Implement controls to eliminate or reduce each identified risk. Always work through the hierarchy of controls. Start with elimination. Can the hazard be removed entirely? If a process generates toxic fumes, can you switch to a less hazardous process? If elimination is not possible, substitute or replace the hazardous material or method with a safer one. Then, the engineer controls. Physical changes to the environment. Local exhaust ventilation to remove airborne contaminants. Machine guarding to prevent contact with moving parts. And noise barriers around loud equipment. Administrative controls come next. Job rotation to limit exposure time. Work procedures that specify safe methods. And training that builds competency. And last, only where all other controls are insufficient, personal protective equipment, hearing protection, respirators, safety goggles, gloves. Document every control decision and the reasoning behind it. Step 4. Document every finding and every decision and communicate the results to your workforce. Your risk assessment register must record the hazard identified, the task or area to which it relates, the risk rating before controls, the controls implemented, the residual risk after controls, and who is responsible for maintaining those controls. This document is your legal evidence of due diligence. It is also a communication tool. Workers must be informed of the hazards in their environment and the controls that protect them. In practice, this means toolbox talks, safety notice boards, induction programs, and task-specific briefings. A risk assessment that sits in a filing cabinet is a compliance document. A risk assessment that is discussed with workers becomes a safety culture. Step 5. Review and update your risk assessments regularly and after any triggering event. Risk assessments must be reviewed at least annually, but several specific events require an immediate review. Any incident or near miss, because the incident is evidence that your current controls were insufficient. Any change in work processes, materials, or equipment. Any change in the workforce, new roles, new numbers, new demographics. Any new legislative requirement or amended regulation. Any finding from a medical surveillance program that suggests an occupational health trend. The last point is important. If your medical surveillance data from CareNet consultants shows that multiple workers in one department have elevated audiometric thresholds, your risk assessment for noise exposure in that area must be reviewed immediately. Medical data is risk data. The two processes must talk to each other. Every industry carries specific occupational health risks that require targeted assessment. In construction, silica dust from grinding, drilling, and demolition, a serious cause of silicosis. Working at height, falls remain the leading cause of construction fatalities in South Africa. In mining, silica dust, noise above 85 decibels in virtually every operation, heat stress in deep-level work, and whole-body vibration from haulage equipment. In food handling, repetitive strain injuries from production line work, chemical exposure from cleaning agents, and biological hazards from food contamination are common. In transport and logistics, driver fatigue, a major contributor to South Africa's road accident statistics, whole-body vibration, and chronic musculoskeletal loading from loading and unloading. Each industry's risk assessment must reflect these specific realities, not a generic checklist. CareNet Consultants not only conducts medical examinations, we provide the intelligence that makes your risk assessments more accurate. Our medical surveillance data identifies where health impacts are occurring, by department, by job type, by exposure duration. When audiometry data shows a statistically significant hearing loss trend in a specific team, that is not just a medical finding. It is evident that your noise control measures are insufficient and your risk assessment needs revision. Our occupational health practitioners can work directly with your health and safety team to interpret medical surveillance findings and translate them into risk assessment improvements. This is what proactive partnership looks like. Not delivering a report and walking away, but staying engaged with what the data tells us about your workplace. A risk assessment program is more than a set of completed forms. It is a structured system with 3 components. First, a master hazard register, a living document that captures every identified hazard across the organization, with owner responsibility and review dates. Second, area and task-specific risk assessments, detailed assessments for each significant operation, reviewed by the people who work in them. Third, a review calendar, a scheduled program of annual reviews and event-triggered updates, with responsible persons and sign-off requirements. When this system is active, 3 things become visible. Your compliance evidence is always current. Your workers understand the hazards they face. And your management team can demonstrate at any moment that reasonable steps have been taken to protect your workforce. That is the standard the OHS Act requires, and it is achievable for every organization. Before you go, here is something from the research. A study by the European Agency for Safety and Health at Work found that organizations where workers are actively involved in risk assessment processes have 30% higher safety compliance rates than those where risk assessment is conducted solely by management. The people doing the work know the risk. Ask them. From all of us at CareNet Consultants, your best is good enough for today. See you in the next video. CareNet Consultants, your partner in workplace health.